Milsurp Garage. Finally, we're moving back into these Berettas. That's it. I'm not mentioning anymore what's coming up, because if I mention something that's coming up, then all of a sudden I get all sidetracked, things happen, and it's like 9 videos later. And then I kind of feel like, even though there really isn't any pressure, I feel like there's pressure to get back into what I originally spoke about. But who cares? Here we are. Oh, by the way, the Remington 550-1 video showing what happened at the range report with the ammo and everything like that. Awesome video, right? Demonetized by YouTube because, God forbid, I should show the inside workings of a gun or something, how they actually function. YouTube's idea of a gun video is like, here's a Beretta, which is a model 1935, by the way. Here's a Beretta Model 1935. Okay, see you all later. That would be fine. I could monetize that. Believe me, the NRA or anybody else who you allow to put ads on my videos that are monetized would love to have the videos. I would love to have videos of the guns taken apart and shown. They say, like, oh, your advertisers wouldn't like that type of video. Most advertisers wouldn't like to have that. Believe me, who's advertising? What ads you're putting on gun videos? They don't care if you take them apart and show what's inside. Well, let's end the suspense right now. We're going to take this apart and look inside. So you might as well press your clown button right now to demonetize YouTube. Here's where we were last time. Remember this little guy? So there are similarities with the Beretta, what is it, 418? I always forget the name of this weird little thing. The Model 418. We're not going in chronological order now, mind you. We are going in just caliber order, because it wouldn't even make any sense anyway. Am I going by manufacturing date? Am I going by when the gun was first released? Or what? So I just figured it'd be nice. Let's just step it up and get larger and larger in caliber. So the 418 here was around a 1950 manufacture, 1949. It's 25 caliber. And they began making these things right around 1920. The 1935, on the other hand, started making these things in 1935, all the way up to 1967. Okay, so what are the similarities here? Well, they do look very similar. They both have that weird open-topped slide thing with the extractor. See it running along the top there? See how the extractor runs along the top of the slide? With that claw that grabs the top of the rim. Very interesting, right? 25 cal, 32 cal. By the way, this one's in 32. They both have the very similar type of takedown mechanism / safety mechanism. This thing pulls a lot of duties right here. This knob right here. It kind of like holds the spring, the recoil spring in its spot. It holds the barrel in place. It's a safety. It's a takedown lever. It does a lot, this button. And as a matter of fact, hopefully I don't forget, I'm going to tell you there's an interesting story behind this button. But so what are the similarities and differences? A couple of the differences are this has a hammer, 35, and the smaller, the pocket pistol was striker fired. And you even see it has a cocking indicator there. Not a loaded chamber indicator, but a cocking indicator. And a grip safety right here. Whereas the 35 does not have either a cocking indicator or a grip safety. The magazine will stay, the slide will stay open. Even with the magazine inside, which is interesting. The 418 has absolutely absolutely no connection whether the magazine's in or out. Doesn't even matter to the slide at all. And what's interesting about the 1935 is that, the magazine stays back it stays back with the magazine in, but if you remove the magazine, the slide will fall. which is kind of unique. That's unique to these things. I've never really seen any other manufacturer doing that. Usually they would be a slide release. I've seen manufacturers where it stays open on the last shot like that. But if you were to remove the magazine, the slide would stay open and there's a slide release. But if the magazine is missing, there's absolutely no hold open at all. So in that respect, the only difference really is that it will drop. If the slide's back and you take out the magazine, the slide will drop. What else? The magazines are very similar type of magazine release, and a similar type of look to the magazine even. That skeletonized look where you could see the rounds inside. You could see the spring in the rounds. And other than that, striker fired, hammer fired. That's the biggest difference. So let's get rid of this little guy. And let's talk about some stats on this guy. Made in 1957, blowback actuated. Let's take a look here. What happens with our dowel when we push? This is the exploding round. Let's say we drop the hammer, and I'm going to hold the trigger down so we just get exactly what it would look like. Bang. Let's see if I can even... Hold on, let's do this again. Let's see if I even have the strength to push. So very, very... See, that's stiff because with these blowback guns, here's what happens with these blowback guns. There's nothing else to stop that slide right now from flying back. When you're pulling the trigger, it's unlocked here. You know, when you pull the trigger and that round goes off, that round is up against the back of this slide, and all that pressure of it exploding and pushing the bullet out this way is pushing the slide back. It can't just be all floppy and loose. Trust me, it would rocket right off the back of the gun. It has to be stiff, and it is stiff. This little thing is stiff. Like these larger guns that have locking mechanisms and stuff like that, that have mechanisms that do the short recoil operation and all of that, they're much easier to operate the slide. And you would think these little guys, you wouldn't have a problem with it, but I'll teach you a little trick. Now, normally you would have to take out the magazine. I'll teach you a trick. This is what I do. I use my 2 fingers to capture the slide. I got a big hand, so I have my thumb in the back of the hand grip here, and I just press the follower down, and that's how I get it to drop without having to take the magazine out every time, which is definitely a pain in the ass. So I can't even dowel this thing back. Maybe with the hammer, if I don't have to actuate the hammer, I probably could. See, there you go. So that's it. There's nothing else. There's nothing else here. There's nothing else here but barrel locked in place. Sorry, I'm all up in the camera here. See how that barrel is just locked right in place there. And in fact, I'll show you right now a thing interesting with these. I guess we might as well take it apart. Here's where get ready with the button, the demonetization button. Dude, here we go. With this lever in this back position like this, it's a safety, number one. See, we can't drop the hammer. But what's interesting about it is if the hammer were down, let's say, and we put the safety on, we can bring the hammer back. So the sear, if the sear at this point were to collapse, the hammer would fall and set off the round even with the safety on. So you see, all it really is, it's a trigger blocking safety, but it's not physically blocking the hammer from moving or falling. Just, you got to keep that in mind, I suppose. Don't mess with the sear. That's the bottom line. Now when you pull the slide back, it's going to go into a different position than with the magazine, and it's different than that hold open position. You can see this lever is actually stuck in there. In fact, I'll show you this right now. If you put the magazine in and you then remove it, which would normally make the slide fall, let's say, watch what it does. Oh, I'm sorry, the complete opposite. What was I gonna? Oh yeah, if you have the magazine in and you go to move the slide lock here to drop the slide, it's only going to fall to there, you see. It's not going to fall all the way because the magazine's in, which would make it fall the rest of the way. So if you had this on and the slide was all the way back and no magazine in, then you would be able to drop it all the way to the closed position. Are you following me? Are you following? Now, what happens with these is during disassembly, some of them, they're loose. When they loosen up, it's much easier. This one, I got to tap on it a little bit, but this is how they disassemble. The barrel is actually just loose right here. They just come right out. Like I said, the older ones, not older, but more used ones. This one didn't have much mileage on it when I bought it. 1957 vintage, and it was well taken care of, not shot often. I've probably shot it more already than it's ever been shot in its life. And the barrel's kind of tight in there, so it has to be tapped out a little bit, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, it makes it nice and tight and accurate. And then you get the barrel with the this mount that holds it on, the feed ramp here. Nice, so you could take this out, separate it, and polish it. Is that better? Oh, dude! So there we go. Barrel's out. Now, you don't have to worry about a striker, about pulling the trigger, that a striker is going to shoot out of here. There's none of that. There's a hammer in here. So you just release the slide, and that's that. And this button comes out, and you have the trigger hammer mechanism here with the hand grip. This interesting little combo piece right here that does a million tasks. The barrel, the slide, guide rod, and recoil spring. That's what we got. And in here, this is that one of those, you know, those inertia firing pins. It's spring loaded in here. So if we get a, let's see, I got a special tool. I got a special tool just to mess with this. So you gotta get one of these. These are all like dentistry tools, but you see what this thing is? It's kind of like a ball. It's like a football, steel football on a post. And what you could do with that is you could actuate things like this, like press on here. So you see I can press on here and push the firing pin out. But when the hammer is dropped all the way down against it, and you push the hammer all the way forward, the firing pin does not protrude. It's like right up against. It's like perfectly right there up against the edge, but not protruding yet. So it has to get hit, and it kind of, the inertia makes it strike and come back. So it makes it safe where carrying it, you can't drop it on the hammer and set it off. But there's always those stories, you know, with the inertia firing pin, like if you were to throw it against the wall, could it hit hard enough for the hammer to for the firing pin to have enough inertia to be able to strike the round? I mean, they say no, it's not supposed to do that. But if that spring in there gets a little weak and the ammo's sensitive, who the hell knows? Don't throw it against the wall, whatever you do. Can you see this plum bluing back here? You read, it's so weird. It's like it's just in this area back here. You can see like actually a dividing line. I wonder if that's even visible. Can you see that? That plum bluing. I could see the dividing line right there. Right across here by the sight. They say that that's from like, it's too blued. It's like over blued or something like that. It's supposed to be something like it's not, it wasn't done right. But I love this. These Berettas have that. Some of them have it, it's like rosacea or something like that. They have it in certain areas. Some of them it's like the whole slide. It's interesting how it seems to just procreate on these things. But I love it. I love that look. That look of the plum, kind of like the, what is it, the SVT, the bolt, those rearmament bolts, armory remanufactured. Is that what it's called? Bolts from the SVT with like that plum color. Gotta love that. So what do we got here? We have the last four of the serial numbers right here on the slide. So they're numbered. The barrel is numbered, the last four. And to the receiver's serial number. So we could match at least these three parts. Magazine just says caliber. It's 7.65 for you Europeans. And this thing's pure Italy right here. There's no made in America junk in here. This is pure Italy, 100%. And they're heavy. I mean, this receiver, some chunk of steel right here, even the slide. You feel these pieces alone by themselves, and you're like, uh-oh, this is going to be a heavy one. You can tell. And you can see here now what I mean about this button. This button does so much. This the recoil spring sits right in here, and you see that's what does like double duty to give this switch some positive clicking back and forth. Here is how it's cammed in there. See that? And it also has this round recess here in the barrel that the barrel sits right on top of that. That it also sits in there and holds it in place until you turn it, and then it releases it here. And it's a safety. It blocks the trigger. The thing does everything. It does everything. That thing needs a raise. This button needs a raise. So let's see, how do we put these things back together again? I almost forgot. So we put this towards the back, so the slide locks. We get this spring in here. We go all the way back. All right. We slide the barrel in. Get it as much in there as we can. Like I said, it's tight, and you just let it kind of drop home, and it'll knock the barrel into place. And magazine in. Beautiful. 525,000 of these things manufactured. From 1935 to 1959, they used serial numbers. They started with serial number 410,000. I think they just like kind of did this thing where they carried over from the guns before, maybe the Galenti or whatever. They kind of started where another gun left off, right? So they ended up, and I forgot what it was. This is the 35. It might have been the 32, and there aren't many of those. The Beretta Model 1932s. I think they were few of them made. But I think that might have been the one that they left off at. But from 410,000 to 923,000, and this is a late manufacturer right here, because this is in the 900,000 range. So this guy was a late manufacturer from 35 to 59, and then they kind of took a little break for a while when they kicked up again from 62 to 63, and those have an A prefix to the serial numbers. And then they kind of shut down again, and they started up in 1966 to 1967. And those, it looks like they made a few 500, less than 1,000. And those have an H prefix to the serial number. If you should see that prefix to your serial number, that's what it means. But this one, late production of the regular ones that were from 410,000 to 923, 35 to 59. So that's where 1957 seems to make sense. They stamp it, cool enough, right on the actual receiver itself, and along with these Italian proof marks that are insane. They were really into their proof marks. I don't know how many people inspected this thing, but when there's the beautiful roll stamp with what we're dealing with here, and made in Italy. You gotta love that. And they're solid. This is I gotta be honest, this is one of my favorite guns, and you could look back through my videos. I don't say any ones are my favorite, but out of pistols, man, these are right in there, man. I think they would be in like the top 5. And when I say they, you're going to see why, because it's not just this guy. This is the 1935. Next, we're actually going to move back a model number, but we're going to move up a caliber. We're going to move to 380 in the 1934. So they're very similar, and so I have one in 35, one in 380, and one in 32, and those guys are like, I love them. They're like, those things are definitely like brothers. You know what I mean? They're like fraternal twins, and I love those things. They're right up there in my favorites. If I had a top 5, I'd have both of them in my top 5. Let's put it that way. So what else do we got? Well, one of my favorite books here, Ordnance Went Up Front. Just buy it. Don't even ask questions. Just find it and buy it. It's not cheap, but this company had this nice leather-bound one. It's worth it. Roy F. Dunlap. Get this book. And he mentions this gun. It's just this cool guy that was... here you go. This book is Observations and Experiences of a Sergeant of Ordnance who served throughout World War II with the United States Army in Egypt, Philippines, and Japan, including way stations, with comment and opinions on the many different small arms in use by the forces engaged. So it's just a cool dude who was there. He was back there, and he talks about this gun. When he gets to the Italian pistols, he talks about this thing. And he says some interesting stuff. He says, let's see what he says. 36 parts. Yeah, boy. It's a great thing I found this book so we could know that there's 32 parts. You know what? I'm going to sit here and plagiarize this poor guy's book. Just, that's where I got a lot of information on this guy. And check it out because he talks a lot about... I could tell you one cool story from this thing. He says that they would find a lot of these things that he used to have like a little side business, I guess, when he was around or by Italy or for some... See, the Germans love these things. They were scooping these things up like crazy, especially these ones in 32 caliber. These 32 caliber ones really weren't really Italy's army assigned, like the official army gun. It was the 380 that was, which in the 1934 we're going to check out soon. But this guy wasn't officially, the one that's in 32 caliber wasn't officially the sidearm for the armed forces of Italy. I do not believe, but Germany loved this caliber and they loved this gun. And you find a lot of these that are German marked. Supposedly, a lot of German soldiers just carried them. They couldn't get enough of these things. They loved them. So that's why they were just kind of like around during wartime. You would just bump into these things a lot. And there's a story, and I'm afraid to do this. I want to do this here with you now, but I'm afraid of what's going to happen because I don't really know the internals. Like, and you start doing weird stuff if, like, I don't want to have to show up at a gunsmith and be like, can you fix this? Well, what they would say is that if there was an order that if you were getting overrun and you were going to be captured, if you're going to be captured and you got a gun, what are you going to do? Like throw it into like a river? I mean, you're there and you're going to get captured. They're going to capture your gun, and they didn't want the guns to be able to be used against against the other forces, so they would want you to make your gun unusable. And with this thing, what they would say is, if you push your finger right here, you turn this thing a little bit, it's coming out right now. See, like you could see it's sunk in over here. If I push it a little bit with my thumb, it's recessed now. See that? It's recessed in and it's coming out over here. I could pull this right out, and I know if I do, that spring in there is going to shoot back the recoil spring, and then I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to take it down then at that point, because this is the takedown lever. So I think that's what really screwed the gun up for the capturing forces, is that you'd have it, but this little piece you would pull out. Now that little piece you could throw, or just ping, you just chuck that thing and it's done. Like, where are you going to find that? So, and then the gun was supposedly like just useless. It obviously wouldn't do anything, but I think it rendered it where you couldn't even take it apart or do anything with it. So that's why I'm pushing that back in, and I'm not messing with it. But apparently he said there was I guess there were a lot of guys that started getting paranoid, thinking they were going to get overrun, so they were taking this piece out and chucking it, and then it turns out they didn't get captured, and they were like, well, now what am I going to do? I don't have my little takedown button in here. So he was like manufacturing these things or whatever, or like making them somehow. I don't know. I thought it was an interesting story for that one little piece, and then I was like, really? That comes out like that? And it does. It actually does come out like that. Without having to do anything else, you could just pop that button out. I'm afraid it's going to render it like just never could be used again. Like I'll go to a gunsmith and be like, I can't get this apart. And he's like, you took that button out? It's useless now, sonny. Now it's a paperweight. So yeah, I love the way these magazines load. I love the way you could see the rounds through them. That looks awesome. And they're staggered too. They're not just in a perfect line. I mean, it is a single stack mag, but they're staggered a little bit. You feel it when you could feel them like this, that they're a little bit one next to each other. It's kind of cool. And I like how you could see the follower here and the magazine, or the spring all compressed. That is pretty awesome. By the way, these are still, I am still endorsing my favorite snap caps. And here they are. This is exactly, it's cool to be able to show a function test with a cool pistol like this that ejects out of the top and everything. It's pretty wild. But here these things are still around. It's realisticsnapcaps.com. And Throwdown at checkout, Throwdown Milsurp Garage, one word, MILSURP GARAGE, one word, gives you 10% off. These guys don't even charge shipping, and they're going to send these awesome, cool snap caps to you in whatever caliber you feel like ordering. And they are way worth it. I see these plastic crappy ones that all come apart that cost more than these, and I don't even understand why. I don't even understand how they're in business, to tell you the truth. Who would want little cruddy chips of plastic all inside their gun? Makes no sense to me. But these guys are awesome. I have no idea. What the status of what's going on with my endorsement is. I'll tell you that, because I'm just endorsing them because they're awesome, and with no monetary gain here for me. I'm just endorsing them because they're awesome. Now check this out. There's a couple of ways to put this magazine in. These heel release. I think that's what they call these things, heel releases. It takes a little bit of time to feel comfortable with these things, but I could show you a cool way that I like. A lot of people, obviously you can't come in this way, but there's a lot of people that'll take the back of it here and push it up against that button to be able to go in like this, right? But what I notice is, especially with these small guns where your hand is hanging off the grip, it's really cool to just feel with your pinky. When you're coming up, you feel with your pinky right where that is. You could compress the button just like this. So you can't go straight in. That's the thing with these. If you try to go straight in, you can't. And you can't hold it where you're going like this. That doesn't work either. So you would have to come in like this. I think what they expect you to do is to come in at an angle like this, push back, and rock up and in. But this point right here, where that proper rocking spot where it goes in, that's a tough spot to just feel in a hurry. But I'm telling you, when you're getting speedy with reloading these things, when you come up and you use this hand, this pinky comes in very handy, because as soon as you come up like this, you're feeling that spot right there, and you're up and in. As soon as you come here, you could use the pinky. See, I could like hold the whole thing like this, and I could, look, there you go. It's in. I did that just with the pinky. So this pinky could do a lot. It doesn't look like it does anything, but when you come up, you don't even have to come up at this angle. You just come up straight and get it right in there with just using this pinky. It works. It works that way. Oops. Why is it not, what happened here? What did I do? What on earth did I do? Did I break my magazine? What did I do here? Oh, I think I was messing with it so much trying to rock it in. See what happens? That's what happens when you rock it in like that the wrong way, is you screw up that top round. Well, anyway, the cycling of this thing is really wild. Check this out. When it's loaded, you could do a nice cool breech tech right across the top. See that? And it stops right here. So it's not like you're in danger of accidentally ejecting it, like pulling out too far and it ejects. It's like a positive stop right there that you'd have to really pull further to eject. So that's kind of just like a cool breech check. If you're ever curious, if you have a loaded chamber indicator is something that you just feel or you just look right at. But that's simple enough to just look right there, right? Right? Smooth as can be. Isn't that cool how that top ejection like that? Gotta love it. Beretta, 1935. Yup. These things were around a long time. 1935 all the way to 1967. They made this 1935. And the 34, it has like a similar lifespan, but not identical. So we'll take a look when we get there. I'd love to just do a back-to-back. Maybe we'll do a back-to-back. I did promise this video last night, I think, or maybe even the night before. Yeah, wasn't it Sunday? I think it was Sunday night. So didn't get here until Tuesday afternoon, so I might have to do the 1934 tonight. Stick around, see if I do, see if I don't. What did I forget about this thing? Did I mention that I pressed the follower down to close the action without having to remove the magazine? It gets a little dangerous when you don't want to do that when the gun is loaded. Trust me, you don't want to do that. That's just for a messing around with it when it's when you're cleaning it and stuff. It is weird that it does that. It is a weird thing that it just drops like that. Remember the Mauser 1914, where when you put the magazine in, the slide fell. Remember that Mauser pistol? So everybody's got their own way of doing things. They have like a nice F and S over here, but you can never really tell, is it the one I'm covering that is what it is, or is it the one that's exposed? So they put a red dot right there just to make sure you know that when that red dot is exposed, that's fire. That's when it's going to definitely fire. And look, it's got a half cock, right? Nice carry pistol. I mean, it really is. It's small. If you want to get it in 32, you can. If you want to get the 1934 and 380 for a little bit more punch, you can. And but a safe gun to carry, because of this half cock position here, locks everything down. So if you're carrying on a loaded chamber, and this hammer, man, that's hard. You can't move that hammer unless you want to. When you it's easy enough when you pull it out to cock it. But I'm saying if it's getting bumped by things or whatever, holster, it ain't moving. So I think that's where it really became like a big favorite, is it could just even knock around. It's kind of like halfway between a pocket pistol and just a small pistol. It's like it's right in there. It's kind of like double duty. Can do both. You can carry it around unobtrusively in your pocket. It sits in a holster nicely. Man, back in the day, when these things were all the rage in the 20s, 30s, and into World War II, these smaller calibers were very, very popular. This 32, this 7.65 Browning, was very, very popular. Very popular. And I don't know, somehow now, just because larger rounds came out, that they get diminished. But you know what? Just because more powerful ammo has come out and larger calibers with more stopping power does not negate the amount of power or the ability of these smaller ones. It didn't change them at all. They functioned well for a long time, and they definitely have their place. It's a tool to go in the toolbox, and every once in a while you reach for every tool. There's always that one go-to screwdriver, but other than that, I think everything else gets equal billing. So that's it for me. Boy, woo! I was talking a lot. Yes, you know what I was checking out? Let me just show you before I go. This is so cool. Remember I was talking about, look, like this 1967 magazine. Look at how automatic locking systems. They were talking about blowback, retarded blowback, toggle bolt, falling barrel, rear block bolt locking system. Awesome, right? This is exactly what we were talking about. For 10 cents a magazine, I'm going through these and I'm just finding all this cool stuff that we were discussing or that we're looking at. And then not only that, but how like these 1960 here, like a 1967 magazine like this, right? Has, well, now it's going to call me a liar because I can't find it. But there's these big, huge pages. Hold on, I'm sorry. There's these big, huge pages of, sorry guys, of stuff like this to buy, right? And then all of a sudden, those ads all go away. See, like 1970, those ads are all gone. And look what it says here. They talk about certain guns, and it says, the Llama Especial is no longer being imported due to the GCA 68. That's what they called it back then, the Gun Control Act of 68. Lyman mold, what's that? Mold is for 77 grain loads. Oh, the mold. Okay, I'm sorry. This mold is for 77 grain molds. Note the, all right, well, whatever. I just wanted to show you how they mention this, the GCA. When that's all they're saying in here. Those ads are all gone, and now it just became ads for like scopes and reloading equipment and stuff like that, and like what do you call it? Like those replica guns, and trigger mechanisms and things like that. So it's interesting to see all that stuff suddenly disappear, and then they constantly reference GCA 68. So from all these early mid 60s ones, and then that changed. It's interesting to see that. And you know that it got a lot, there was a lot of talk back then about rights being taken away, and how it's just interesting to see that even back then. I was born in 68. A lot of this was going on. They were the talks about how what this Gun Control Act of 68 was going to mean for Second Amendment people. And then boom, then there it goes. In 1968 it just hit, and it changed a lot of things forever. And a lot of people might have had the thoughts that they were saying, well, as long as it just stays like that, fine, whatever, okay, if that's the way it is. But you see how that stayed all the way from 1968. I'm 50-something years old, and there it is. It's still there, plus all the other stuff they've dumped on top of it. So that's the thing, is that like it never goes back the other way. So you have to be really careful what you give up, because nobody's handing out rights anymore. You know, nobody's walking around going like, hey, let's take a look at this. Maybe we need to relax the bans on this. That's not happening. And once you lose, it's like a tug of war, where you're only getting pulled forward and you never get a chance to even pull an inch back. So you got to really dig your feet in, and you got to really hold that rope and not give up even an inch, because you're never going to go back the other way. And the only way to win is to just never give up anything. So that's it. So some people say like, well, why, bump stocks are stupid. I mean, I agree. I don't agree with bumps. I don't even know why the hell anybody would need that. But I'm just like, I don't give anything up. Just don't, whether you agree with it or not, just, I don't want to move in that direction. You can't move in the direction to give up anything, so you got to just really dig in and protect what you got, is basically what I'm saying. So reading those old magazines is very interesting for that respect. I love it. I love looking through them, because there's a lot more to learn than just what information the magazine is imparting as far as the technical knowledge. There's also something historical to learn and ponder over, even just looking at the magazines for what content they have. You know what I mean? And what was it like to be a gun enthusiast in May of 1968? Have gun laws been repealed? That must be an interesting article. And just reading about what they talk about and what things were like gives you a greater insight into what you're dealing with today. So anyway, that's it, people. That's my freaking soliloquy for the evening. Enjoy. It's nice having you guys around. I don't care if these videos get demonetized, but it's always interesting to see it happen. And it's so arbitrary, but it's been an interesting journey so far with the monetization, and hopefully you guys are supporting me with these snap caps here, because that was an interesting venture too, to like just kind of poke around with a sponsorship, even though it's not monetary. The guy would supply me with some of these, so maybe I could do some rifle videos with some of his rifle snap caps. That would be kind of cool. That's it. Realistic snap caps, Milsurp Garage at checkout for 10% off and free shipping. And I will see you soon with the Beretta 1934 in .380 caliber coming up next. See you all soon.